Make sure when you're on Skype, make sure you let it record for like a good 30 to 50 seconds to a minute before you actually start the show, because sometimes it takes a second for people to pick up.
We're talking right now. We should be able to chop the audio, right? If we let it roll right now, and then we'll just break in because it's been going for 20 seconds now. 20 seconds.
Used for editing video.
Buzzsprout.
Well, the video we don't, but we use Audacity.
Yeah.
Okay. So I recommend in Final Cut. It's really easy.
Yeah. You said Final Cut use?
Yeah, that's what I use. It's like I had no fucking idea how to do it, and it's really easy. It's literally drag and drop, and like it's so easy, and you could literally do everything. That's what all the pros use is Final. It's $300, but
yeah, that's what I liked about Anchor. You just drop stuff in, like your intro, your content, and then your outro, and then you
can just like trim it like a video, like from your phone.
And then, with Final Cut, you can then save just the audio and send it. Like once you do all the editing, and you could save just the audio and send it to wherever if you're using Buzzsprout.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, we're going for like 1:20, so we're
all right. We've been going, man. So I know I was commenting before, but I'm liking that T-shirt, bro.
Oh, absolutely. I brought it out for you guys last time I was on the show. You guys sent me some sweet merch. One from your sponsors, Roll Junkie, and bro, let me tell you, this shirt is so fucking comfortable. I wear this shit all.
We tell you guys, we ain't lying how comfortable it is. Like,
but you sent me the perfect shirt. The little monkey's got the American flag on the back.
Right. It's their Patriot T-shirt. Yep. So, and I figured for a good old Patriot, he needed a Patriot T-shirt.
Dude, my wardrobe is just.
They should do more colors with that design on the back, like black ones, red ones, or red one, white ones, things like navy.
All right, I know a guy, so maybe I can get some pull.
Yeah. These are dope. These are dope.
Awesome. So if you guys didn't know, we got James back on from We the People Radio.
Yes, we do.
They've been killing it on their end, on their Instagram, on their YouTube. And James is always a wealth of knowledge. We actually had Anthony on last week, one of his co-hosts for the We the People episode, Not Down That Rabbit Hole episode, right? He's not on Down the Rabbit. He's just on the...
he's on the regular We the People segment with Nick Mirabella that we do. It comes out usually every Tuesday. But we do 2 segments, like we said, Down the Rabbit Hole and regular We the People. We usually put out 3 episodes a week, and then I'm doing shows with you guys and a bunch of other people constantly. So there's a ton of content out there. I'm very thankful that you guys want to have me on and hear me talk. It's so wild to me, man. It's very humbling that people actually care what we have to say and the support that we're getting. But it's really exciting to see where these things are going to go, and I'm pumped. I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know about you guys. This is fun.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a ton of fun. Me and Drew talk about it all the time. It's like we get to talk to good people, and we get to hear different perspectives, and that's a big thing. I think all of us really got into it, and I know like I've heard you guys talk, and Anthony said last episode, like people wanted to hear what you guys were talking about because you were talking about it, and people started like like hitting you up, like your phone's blowing up before we're even like on air or anything, and it's just like and this kind of similar thing happened to us. Is like everybody in our circles like, bro, you just need to talk. Like we love to hear you guys talk and your perspective and everything else. So and we have a wide variety on our show. I know you guys like have been trying to go bigger, but it's just been so crazy with all the politics and everything else going on that you guys have kind of got not stuck in that lane, but that's just the lane you're in at this moment in time.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's the most important lane to be in, especially for what we're covering, because of how important this upcoming election really is. If you haven't been paying attention or you've been living under a rock, our country right now is in a very crazy place. Like it almost is like hell on earth, to be honest. Like it's crazy. The West Coast is totally covered in fires. You have people rioting, looting, burning down buildings, destroying the entire country, trying to shut down police. Like we had you on the show on We the People a couple weeks ago, and Drew, you were on vacation, so unfortunately you couldn't join us. We're definitely doing another one, bringing you back. But we were talking about how these people wanted to defund the police, and that's totally not the way to fix this. We all can agree that police needs to be addressed, and I think
you need to train them better and fund them better so they have better abilities, not take away the ability.
Exactly. So the entire country right now is in shambles, and if we lose this election, I look at what the Democrats are putting up, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Like, look at this guy. He goes up yesterday and plays Despacito when it's because did you see that? Like, did you see him?
I honestly,
No,
I'm like,
dude,
this can't be real.
Yeah.
It was very real. Like the guy walked out on stage and it's like National Latino Heritage Month or something like that. And he's like, I just got to say one thing, and just plays Despacito on his cell phone. Like, didn't even have them like have it say like, who told him this was
that was a good idea. You know, somebody came up with it because you know he can't even find Pandora or YouTube on his phone.
He's probably never heard the song in his life. He's probably never even heard the song.
It probably wasn't even playing on his phone. Someone probably had it over the PA system, and it just looked like he was playing it on his phone or something. Like, you know.
No, he played it and put it up to the mic. Like, and Donald Trump, I love this man so much because I don't know if you saw what he tweeted. Did you see what he tweeted trolling Joe Biden? No. Oh my God, he's the ultimate legend. Like, Donald has fucking the biggest penis energy in the world. Like, just knocks knees, walking around. This guy, he literally goes on Twitter and he retweets a tweet and says, "What is this?" or something like that. And the tweet is Joe Biden walking up to the stage and playing a song, but it's not Despacito. It's "Fuck the Police."
Oh, I saw that meme. Dude, I saw that.
We did that, man. Like, what? This is the world that we're in, though, right now. Like, you have Gavin.
Presidential candidates are fighting like that.
It's crazy, but it's so. And that's so Donald Trump, though. Like, he's been so consistent. He's the greatest troll of all time. The things that this man does, I think it's hysterical sometimes. Like, it's just so over the top.
That's always, I think that's the big jump for a lot of people, is because you're used to, you know, having, and I mean, even our last president, even though, you know, my opinion, you know, whatever, but he was very presidential in the way he spoke. Mm-hmm. And he was very, he was like the cool, calm, collected, smooth operator, silver tongue. Like, he could, you know, he could talk to anybody. He can make anybody feel calm. And he was a great public speaker, you know? But when people say that all the time, I said, yeah, so was Hitler. But you know, it's very true though.
Absolutely, it's. I'd rather a brutal truth than what's the famous saying? A brutal truth than a sweet lie or something like that.
Well, yeah, we talked about that too. Like I said, you know, everybody says presidential, but look where presidentials got us all these years.
Oh, absolutely! And look at what the president's doing. Like what he's doing in the Middle East right now.
Action.
And, like, really think about this. Like Joe Biden. He can't even do one public speaking event in like a month. Like, he literally has been hiding in the basement. President Trump is like in California, in another state, back in Washington, D.C., signing peace deals with the Middle East that people thought would never happen ever. And he's back there doing this. Then he's flying back to another place, going to Philly. Like, this man is constantly going. Like, he was in Nevada literally like 2 days ago, literally on Sunday. And the place was packed. He had 2 rallies on Sunday. He had one in Henderson, and then 300 miles away, he had another one in Minden or something like that in Nevada. And it was a zoo. Saturday, I went to a Trump boat rally on Lake Mead, and these are things that the president isn't even organizing. It's just people that support him. There was 1,000+ boats on the.
They did one around us.
Yeah, they did a couple. They did a boat rally, and then they also did like 2 rallies at a field, like a big big park by my house.
Well, they were in Parsippany this weekend.
There's 2 separate rallies in Parsippany that they had, but yeah, you couldn't even drive around. There's cars everywhere, flags everywhere. Like
it's like the Beatles are in town.
Yeah, it really is.
They're in town. Like,
yeah, it's been really interesting to see over these past couple weeks. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's just whether you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump, I think it gives you, well, most people, it should give you a pretty weird perception of the mainstream media, because the way that they're showing is that nobody's going to his rallies, and Biden's having people at his rallies and stuff like that. But like when you're going on social media and people are posting like real live, like at the rallies, the place you can't even get in.
Nope. Bro. I went to the one in Vegas.
Biden waving to an empty airfield when he was getting on a plane.
When he played Despacito, literally you can hear the people clapping. They were trying to force clap so it sounded louder. Like you could hear them just clapping really hard into the mic. Like he has no support. Like they had a Latinos for Biden rally on the Vegas Strip. Guess how many cars showed up?
Not many.
4.
Jesus.
So this just goes to show that the media is not, they don't cover the rallies for a reason. They don't cover the fact that there are boat rallies every single weekend on every single body of water all over the country, even in liberal California and New York. It's all over the place where they're setting records and 3,000 plus boats are showing up from all over. It's literally wild to see. So I think it really should open people's eyes to the fact that there's clearly a one-sided agenda with the media because they don't cover any of this. And even in the riots, like, look what's going on with the riots. They're making it seem like in Portland the whole city is burning down. Like if you watch the news, Portland looks like it's like the worst place ever to go right now. And I did an interview with Sam Tripoli, and he went up there and he was telling me how it was literally a block of road. Like it was just a small group of people that were causing mayhem on a block. It wasn't even anything serious. But because the media wants to make it seem like it's something huge and scare everybody and put everybody in a state of fear, they're just blowing this and blasting it in our face. And most people don't know any better unless you're actually paying attention.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. There's a lot of fishy shit going on right around now. But so a little bit. What's that?
It's only going to get worse. The next 50 days are going to be wild. Like
it's just going to be nonstop hammering, day after day, new agenda, new narrative. Something else broke, something else happened, something else is going nuts. Somebody else lit somebody on fire. Somebody else shot somebody with no gun. Somebody, I think it's just going to be like bang, bang, bang. Because we haven't seen anything, and then all of a sudden, like I think we talked about it, like for a solid like 2 or 3 months, we're like, where'd all the school shootings go? Where'd all the mall shootings go? Where'd all the hijackings go? Where'd all the terrorist camps in Afghanistan go? Where'd all the and it was nothing. And then literally, I think a week ago, there was like video of like somebody shooting up a mall.
Yep.
And it's because all these agendas are falling flat on their face after some time, but not with everybody, because I know there's a lot of people, especially where we live, that are just like, one-track mind, and they can't see two sides to a story.
Absolutely, because you're absolutely right. There is two sides to the story, because there is a lot of negative going on, but there's also a lot of positive. And if you're not really paying attention, because the way the news covers everything, which they don't cover anything, you wouldn't know that a lot of these things are actually happening. Like there's a lot of rumblings going on with the Durham report. I don't know if you saw today, but the Senate Committee for Homeland Security, they subpoenaed John Brennan, James Comey, James Clapper. They got sent subpoenas today. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah, well, if not everybody's familiar, Comey was the head of the FBI, Brennan CIA, and Clapper's NSA.
No, Clapper was the I think assistant director at the FBI. Like he was, or no, at the CIA. I'm sorry. I think he was like one step below Brennan. Okay. Brennan was the head, but Brennan's a Muslim Brotherhood guy. Like he literally has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. Like it's really crazy. But what's wild about that is if people won't understand if someone like James Comey or John Brennan or Clapper get arrested, because they don't understand how important of a role these people play. Like this guy's the head of the CIA for the entire Obama administration. He knows every dirty little secret the CIA knows. James Comey knows all the dirty secrets of the FBI. So what do you think they're going to do if they do get arrested? Just say if and when they do get arrested. They're going to be chirping like birds. So there's a lot of things going on, and I think that's kind of why
they're two of the highest level government officials. That if they do get arrested, I mean that's historically probably the biggest treason besides Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, but the average American, like I always try to relate to the average American. It's very tough going down these rabbit holes all these years. But the average American, they don't pay attention to this stuff. They have no idea who these guys are. The only time they ever heard James Comey's name was because of the Hillary Clinton emails. It's literally the only time they've ever heard of this guy. So they don't really even understand what he does. Like, just think of the average American. So if he were to get arrested and get perp walked, like it would be big news, but the average American would, like, even people that, like, I get a lot of messages like nothing's happening, so on and so forth. Like, where's Obama? Where's Hillary? They all want these big arrests. And I think these smaller ones are going to come first, even though they're not small at all. They're far from small. They're actually some of the biggest arrests in American history if they do happen.
Yes.
But the fact that they finally got subpoenaed is a very big deal. And I think people don't understand this because it's not broadcast all over the news. They're like, oh, nothing's happening. Nothing's going on.
Well, hiding this stuff. A lot of news outlets are hiding this stuff because it wouldn't look good on the previous administration, and it wouldn't look good on the narrative with all the collusion, and it wouldn't look good on all that stuff. Because I also saw something, I'm not sure if I'm correct or not. I saw they released Biden's phone call with the Ukraine president, a different.
Yeah.
It looks super terrible, like even worse for Hunter Biden and all those other guys than the previous phone calls, because everybody's like, oh, they already released them, blah, blah, blah. And the whole big thing with Trump to try to, screw him was quid pro quo. And literally on tape committing quid pro quo. And everybody that you talk to is like, oh, but that's just Joe Biden.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. The way the media covers things. Like, they didn't cover the Sally Yates hearing where Sally Yates said James Comey went rogue. They didn't cover the Rod Rosenstein hearing where he said Robert Mueller literally was doing things that he wasn't supposed to do and passing the buck on to all these other people. So the media doesn't cover it. And I think that's why you guys brought me on today, is to cover where a lot of media, another media outlet that you can find information. And I know you guys were asking me a lot of questions about Q earlier, right?
Yeah. So I know unfortunately we didn't get to talk about it like last time, but yeah, we were kind of hoping we kind of start with a quick or a high level overview of like what Q and what it is, as well as the background and how this whole organization got started.
For sure, and I'll try to do my best to keep it as short as possible, to really help people understand. There is a lot that goes into it, and you need a lot of context for a lot of this information, because this is a military intelligence operation. That's what QAnon really is. It is a military intelligence operation, and the military.
It was also the highest level clearance in the military, correct?
The highest level clearance, security clearance. Yes.
Yes.
That's where Q comes from. Yep. Bill Cooper actually talks about Q clearance. The guy who wrote "Behold the Pale Horse," who said that the CIA and the U.S. government was going to do a false flag in July of 2001 and blame it on Osama bin Laden. And 2 months later, in September of 2001, it happened. They blamed it on Osama bin Laden. A week or two after 9/11, he got shot in the chest in his front yard. So this same guy.
It was probably an accident, him cleaning a shotgun, right?
Yep. Yeah. But no, Behold the Pale Horse is if you have never read that book or never heard of that book, I highly, highly recommend it. Because
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Bill Cooper, I'm sure you've seen some segments, but I know Jamie Cruz, who's big in the BJJ community, he shares a lot of content from this book and excerpts from this book, because it is really wild to see, like, this guy Bill Cooper wrote a book in the 80s about how things that are going on today and how they're going to use these false flag shootings in schools and school shootings to try to take our guns. And he was writing about this a long time ago, and he was former intelligence. So this is a military intelligence operation, because we all can see that there's evil involved in our government at this point. There's people that are involved in some evil, nefarious things, not just in our government, but even right outside our government, a la Jeffrey Epstein, NXIVM, all these evil pedophiles that we're seeing getting arrested during Trump's administration, John of God, things like that, for those people who know anything about Brazil. So there's always two sides of the coin. Like you said earlier, Garrett, there's a good side and a bad side. There's actually still good patriots inside of our government that literally want to bring our republic back, and they want to restore America's prosperity. Because you guys aren't much older than me, and for pretty much the majority of my life, it seems like our country's been on a down, like just going down. Like, all of my friends went to college, they couldn't get jobs. Like, it just didn't seem like our country was on a good trajectory. Housing market, everything. It costs $1 million, an arm or leg, or dollars losing value, so on and so forth. So they wanted to restore America's greatness, because America was once the greatest country in the world, and still probably is, but it was much better than it currently is. So these guys in the military, they wanted to take back our country. So they tried to do it with JFK in the 60s, and we all saw what happened with that. He got shot in broad daylight, and that was done on purpose because they didn't want anybody.
They got the power.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to wait, and they waited till technology caught up where they can actually use it against them. Because at the end of the day, these people were so powerful and they've been in control for so long, they never thought that they would ever lose power. And I always use the example of like the heavyweight boxer, the champ, and he's undefeated and he's defended the belt 10 times in a row. No one's even come close to touching him. So he has this young up and coming guy. He's like, he's nobody, and he doesn't train as hard. He's partying, having a good time. Goes out to the fight, and the guy just sleeps him, puts him out, and the champ goes down, and he loses the fight. And that happens all the time in the fight game. But this is the same kind of analogy where the deep state, this cabal, this evil entity that's been controlling not just our country, really the entire world. They didn't think she would lose, so they used the same technologies that we used.
For people who are listening, who is she?
No, she,
Hillary Clinton. They didn't think that Hillary Clinton.
That I was just going to use the example that you can think of that for a fact that they use the same technology that we use as Hillary Clinton on her BlackBerry. Sending classified emails, and James Comey literally said, she did it. She broke the law, but we're not going to bring charges. We know this is 100% fact. There's no arguing this, and they all did this. So all the people that were connected to Jeffrey Epstein, all the people that were connected to NXIVM, the text messages they sent back and forth, the emails, look at the Podesta emails that have come out. Look at all the things that WikiLeaks have dropped already. These are all things that we can go through, that we can hold with without a shadow of a doubt that they exist. This is not a conspiracy. This is a fact. So what Q really is a message board going around the mainstream media, talking about things that the media refuses to cover. And Q is not somebody, Q first off is not one person. I always talk about it like in the singular form, just because it's easier. But Q is really a group of people, and he said it's around 10 people, 7 military, 3 non-military. I'm sure more involved and in the know at this point, but not many. It's a very small group of people. And they're just dropping things that they call crumbs, little bits and pieces of information. And this is what I really love about Q, because I am a critical thinker and I've always questioned everything. Q never really tells us flat out what is happening. Like, hey, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and look at this. He leaves little bits and pieces of information, and these people on these message boards, they go and dig throughout they scour through the internet to find the actual documents and information that Q, or the pictures or things like that Q is actually talking about. And it's really wild. I don't know if you guys remember when President Trump got elected and Shia LaBeouf went on on 4chan, I believe it was, and put up a white flag in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, if you find this white flag, like, I'll do something. I forget what he was going to do, but it was like in protest to President Trump. And these people on the channel, on the message boards, they found it within an hour using flight patterns and cloud movements. Like, that's literally what they did, and they found it. Like, it was just a camera focused on this little flag, and you see a tiny bit of sky. So this is what they do. They just scour through the internet, and they present this information for other people to read through and look at, like myself, because I can't scour the internet like that. But so we call these people autists because, it's not even like a negative term. It's like, yo, these guys are fucking brilliant. Like, they're just better than us at researching. But they find the documents and the government information that allows us to dig through this stuff using these little crumbs on the message boards. And Q, like I said, is just a roundabout way of the media. Because as we know, we talked about earlier, the media doesn't cover important things or things that are happening. They only cover their agenda and what they want to cover. And it's usually the negative. Like I said, they didn't cover the Sally Yates, all those other hearings that we talked about. And this is par for the course. This is what they've been doing the entire time since President Trump took office, and probably before that as well. We just didn't really notice it as much because the president and the leaders all played along as well. They were all following their role. So Q is just, basically giving us bits and pieces of information that the media refuses to cover. And a lot of people are like, how do you know if Q is real? And I've been following Q since the early days. Q's first post was on October 28th, 2017, and has been posting ever since. There's now like 4740 or something like that. There's like 4,700 posts currently on the boards. And so Q's been posting ever since 2017. And there's a few things that happened throughout these posts, because when I got introduced to Q, it was early 2018. It was like February, March of 2018. You remember when President Trump dropped the Moab Syria, on the base in Syria?
Mm-hmm.
I was about to take a big black pill. Like, here's Trump. Like, I was a big Trump fan. Like, I bought into the hype, like an outside guy coming in. And I was like, here's another military-industrial complex, guys, starting wars that we don't need to be in. Like, this is not our problem. We're not the world police. And I was really, like, going down a bad path with President Trump. I was like, I'm done with him. Like, this guy's another deep state cabal guy. And my buddy Nick Gaggs, shout out to Nick Gaggs, he introduced me to Q, and I'm a critical thinker, so I saw it, and I was like, all right, this is cool, let me look into it. So I spent hours and hours and hours researching and studying. But luckily for me, when I started following Q, there was a few things that happened that were just so undeniable that made me believe that there's some meat to this bone. And early on, right around Easter of 2018, so on the boards that Q posts on, he posts on 8chan, which is now 8kun. There's two boards. There's one that Q is the only one that could post to, so it's easy to find Q's posts. And then there's a post where regular people who log into the boards can go and comment, ask questions, and have conversations and discussions. And Q's also reading all of these. So we all know this. So a lot of times Anons will ask Q things, and Q will sometimes answer. So one of the Anons was like, hey, Q, can you tell POTUS to give us a little nod to the Anons and, have them say tip-top shape in the State of the Union. And another Anon followed that up and said, yeah, have them say tippy-top shape in the State of the Union. Now, the State of the Union is a very serious address. Like, that's like a very important day in our country. There's a lot of historic State of the Union addresses. So it wasn't really appropriate for him to add it. But shortly after was Easter, and President Trump standing in the Rose Garden in front of a big white rabbit that looks straight out of Alice in Wonderland. He's sitting there talking. He goes, I just want to thank Melania and the White House staff. They do such a great job at setting this up. They keep this place in tip-top shape. Some would even say it's in tippy-top shape. Now, I've been alive for almost 32 years. I've never in my life heard someone say tippy-top shape. Like, that's never happened in my life. Tip-top shape, yeah, absolutely. But tippy-top shape, you don't hear that. And I was like, yo, and he's standing in front of a big white rabbit that looks straight out of Alice in Wonderland with glasses and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, what was that? Like, that's really wild. And then shortly after that, so this is Easter time, in June of 2018, June 25th, or in July, I'm sorry, not June, July 25th of 2018, Q posted on the board, no name returns to the headlines. And for those who don't know, no name refers to John McCain because he was a traitor. And because he was a traitor, you never say a traitor's name. And so we always refer to him, Q always refers to him as no name. So he put in kill brackets, those are like little square brackets. He goes, no name returns to the headlines. And all of us, I remember watching the boards, and me and my buddy Nick Gaggs, who's the only person I could talk to about this about the time. There was no Instagram accounts really, like there was really nothing going on. It was just a small group of people on the boards watching. So we're talking like, oh man, something's happened with McCain. Something's happened with McCain because he was MIA at this point. Remember right before he died, he was like MIA for the longest time, and his only previous appearances, he was wearing walking boots and things like that. Mm-hmm. So nothing happened all of the rest of July, or all of August. So August 25th hits, 1 month to the day. And I apologize. I got to back up because on that July 25th post, Q posted no name returns to the headlines at 4:28 in the afternoon. That's a very important piece of the story. So 4:28 in the afternoon, he makes this post. On August 25th of 2018, 1 month to the day, the New York Times posts a headline, John McCain announced dead. Guess what time he was announced dead, boys? 4:28 in the afternoon. How do you know to the minute when this man was going to die a month in advance? How? So that's something that I was like, all right, there is something going on here. There is a plan at play. There's something there's people doing things because there's no explanation for this. Like people are like, oh, that's just a coincidence. That's just a coincidence. How down to the minute? But okay, let's go a little further down the path and let's fast forward to 2020 because we can go on with small proofs like that, and that's not even a small. That's a huge proof. But there's tons of small proofs like we all.
Before you go a little further, so what do you say to somebody who's like, well, they did the same shit with Nostradamus when the World Trade Centers, and they went back through his, quatrains, and you can interpret it however you want to interpret it, so on and so forth. Because then that puts you in the hole of the conspiracy theorists, right?
So it does, but at the same time, you can talk about these things, and then you bring up these proofs that I'm about to mention, and there's just one too many things. And what I say to people is that, okay, one time is maybe a coincidence, maybe even two times is a coincidence.
But how many pattern?
How many times until it's mathematically impossible that it's a coincidence? And I actually had somebody on our show who actually knows the answer to this because I did not know the answer to this. Do you know how many coincidences is for it to be mathematically not a coincidence? Take a guess.
3, 4,
5. 5 coincidences, and it's mathematically impossible for it to be a coincidence. So there's a lot of small coincidences. We call them deltas on the Q boards. So a lot of times Q will post, and literally with inside of a minute, President Trump will tweet. And usually President Trump's tweet and Q's post will have something correlating, whether it's a misspelled word, a missing letter, things like that. Like they always make fun of him for
not spelling correctly, and not doing stuff.
It usually has to do with a Q post that Q literally posted. It's always Q posts first and then the president. It's never President Trump and then Q. It's always Q posting first, and it's always with inside of a minute, and timestamps are undeniable. You can't, they have it on Twitter, they have them on the Chan boards. You cannot forge timestamps. So these things have happened literally thousands of times at this point, and those are just the smaller proofs. But fast forward to 2020, because this year has been the wildest year in maybe American history. Like this is like when you go back on this 100 years from now, people are gonna look at 2020 and be like, what was going on? Like this is crazy. Like really think about it. We're living through like crazy historic moments. And January 3rd of 2020, do you guys remember what happened?
Yep.
January, what was the date?
3rd, 2020. The very beginning of the new year. So we had the New Year's Day, we had the second day, the third day. This new year came in so hot because on January 3rd, 2020, President Trump blew General Soleimani to smithereens.
Oh, yes.
With precision accuracy. He literally blew him up to smithereens. Then that was a major Q proof, though, because if you were to write January 3rd, 2020 out, like if you were writing an essay and you were going to write it out, like say you're using MLA, you would write 1/3/20, correct? Like if you were writing a date out. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to post 1,320 because every single post, like we said, has a number. If you go to post 1,320, it was a post from May of 2018, so almost 2 years ahead, and the whole post was literally about how POTUS took control of Iran, how today POTUS took control of Iran. They eliminated the deep state connection to Iran, and this was a post that was made 2 years earlier. Then fast forward to January 31st of 2020. Remember what happened then? If you don't know, it was Brexit. Brexit officially happened. They voted on it in 2016, and they've been fighting to keep Britain a part of the European Union ever since. And on January 31st of 2020, the European Union officially removed the flag, and there was that famous politician from England like cheering, waving flags, and the European Union was really pissed off about it. That happened officially on that day. On January 31st, 2018, Q posts Freedom Day in big bold letters 2 times. Like, how do you know these things 2 years in advance or a month in advance this many times? Like, it's not once, it's not twice, it's like a bunch of times that these things are happening. So at this point, you have to sit here and say, okay, there's something going on here, because it gets even crazier. It gets even wilder. So everybody knows what's going on with General Flynn. Well, not everybody, because the news doesn't cover it. I apologize.
Cover it at all.
They don't cover it at all, but they literally railroaded General Flynn, and we now know for 100% fact they tried to blackmail this man to plead guilty, and ruin this guy's life. He was a 3-star general. He's been in the military and in the intelligence since 1982. He worked with the NSA. President Trump appointed him to the Director of National Intelligence, and right when President Trump won the election on November 4th, General Flynn was making tweets about the Anthony Weiner laptop and spirit cooking. So they tried to railroad this man and destroy him for no reason. And we know this for 100% fact. So Q posted in the end of June. I think it was like June 28th of 2020. It was somewhere around there. Q posted the oath that the military take to when they join the military. Like, I saw, that famous oath. I forget exactly how it goes, but he posted the oath. And nobody in the news, nobody else was talking about this besides people inside the QAnon community, because we were all taking the oath on camera and sending it in, and Q was posting it sometimes of people from all over the world, literally all over the world, sending pictures, videos of them taking this oath. And nobody else is talking about it besides the QAnon community. General Flynn puts in his bio in Twitter, which he doesn't tweet a lot, he puts in his bio, hashtag take the oath. And then on July 4th, which is only a couple days later, he literally stands in front of the fire pit that he's with his entire family. They all take the oath. There's like 7 of them or something like that. There's a few of them. They all take the oath that Q literally just put out for the Anons to take. And at the end says a very, very big saying inside the QAnon community, which is where we go one, we go all, which was on the bell of JFK's boat. But General Flynn and his family all said this. But there's a little subtle nod inside of that little video that he posted on Twitter of them taking the oath and saying, where we go one, we go all. Because that's it, right there alone just says to me that he's somehow involved in this. Like, no one's talking about where we go one, we go all, except for people inside this Q community. He's literally he's still on a gag order. He still can't talk about what's going on at all. I can't say anything. And he's putting his, if this is some crazy conspiracy, why is he going to put his reputation on the line after they already tried to ruin his reputation? If he comes back from this is hanging on by a thread just based on optics because of what they did to him. So why would he risk that? Why would he put his neck on the line for some crazy conspiracy? But the subtle nod that they did, which was really cool, and it's something only the Anons and the autists would catch, at the very end, as soon as they said where we go one, we go all, everybody in the group was holding up a certain amount of fingers. Some were thumbs up, some were like this, and they were holding up a certain amount of fingers, and it was like a split second. And if you didn't freeze frame it, you would have missed it. But when you freeze frame it and you count all the fingers, it equals the number of 17. 17 fingers that are hold up. And that's another little tiny Q proof, because the 17th letter of the alphabet is Q. And Q told us early on in the posts that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals A, B, C, D, E, and that's something that they use for decodes and things like that all the time. But these are things that have happened that make you go, okay, maybe I should start paying attention. Now, I can't sit here and break down Q down to a T for anybody, because Q requires your own free thinking. Like, that's what it requires. Like, and we all get together as Anons and we just pass ideas and have discussions. Even me and Garrett all the time. Like, he'll reach out to me and be like, yo, what does this mean? And we'll send articles back and forth and have discussions back and forth to try to figure this out. There's a lot of really good, I would call them journalists at this point, in my opinion, that put out really, really good content covering what's really going on. I really enjoy X22 Report. Praying Medic, he does the best QAnon decodes. So if you're having a hard time understanding Q, he does a very good breakdown on it, and he only covers the Q boards. Like, it's the only time he posts, and he's very boring, to be honest. It's not really fun to listen to. It's unfortunate.
You don't got some funny ass memes like you guys.
Yeah, but his breakdowns are very, very good, and really helps you kind of understand how Q posts work. Because if you're new to Q and you're looking at the Q boards, it literally looks like gibberish. It's like very cryptic. Like, it's not easy to understand, and a lot. And Q always says think mirror, and things have double meanings. Dates have double meanings. Like another Q proof that happened the other day, and if you weren't paying attention, you don't even really know that this happened. But Q always tells us that FISA equals the start, and he always said that 11.3 is the marker. Is marker number 1, he said. 11.3. So we're all thinking 11.3 was like 11.3. Like, everybody in the community thought 11.3 meant like November 3rd. Like, everybody thought it was November 3rd. And the other day, a member of the FBI, a lawyer for the FBI by the name of Kevin Kleinschmidt, pled guilty to altering an email which they used to get the FISA warrants against Carter Page, which, if you don't know who that is, Carter Page is working with the CIA, and he sent an email to the FBI and James Comey saying, hey, I am a CIA asset. I'm inquiring with the Russians on behalf of the CIA. And he's that's summarized of the email. And he sent that to the FBI. And to get their FISA warrant, Kevin Kleinschmidt changed that specific email to make it say that he's working with the Russians rather than the CIA. And they used that to get their FISA warrant, which then led to them spying on the president. So Kevin Kleinschmidt pled guilty to this. So this is no longer conspiracy. This is something that's fact, which again blows up their whole Russian narrative. Everything that they did with Russia is now blown up because everything is completely fabricated at this point. But Kevin Kleinschmidt, let's go back to what I said earlier, A, B, C, D, E, so on and so forth. The 11th letter of the alphabet is K. The 3rd letter is C. FISA equals start. That has to do with blowing up the whole FISA warrant right there. And Kevin Kleinschmidt is KC, which is 11.3, marker number 1. And if you're not paying attention, you don't even know about this Kevin Kleinschmidt story. I guarantee a majority of your listeners have never even heard the name Kevin Kleinschmidt in their life. They have no idea who this guy is. But yet it's 100. He pled guilty. Like, he didn't even do anything.
Yeah, he was the FBI lawyer that doctored the papers, doctored the email that obtained the FISA warrant.
Mm-hmm. But he pled guilty to. That's the whole.
Pled guilty.
They're bringing a trial and they're bringing it to court.
Like, this was every other time, it'd be all over the news. They did a little thing like, oh, it's no big deal, and Trump's the one having to say, oh, I heard the FBI lawyer got arrested and he's gonna plead guilty and da 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 da. But you don't hear it anywhere else.
Exactly. And this is why Q exists, because there's no way. And again, if Q is real, based on these things, like General Flynn is not some crazy guy who's going to put his neck on the line for some conspiracy. He also took a picture the other day. Literally the other day, he took a picture standing in front of a poster of his face, and underneath it says, "Who knows where the bodies are buried?" And that's something that Q has literally been saying since the very first couple posts. Who knows where the bodies are buried, and always reference General Flynn to it. And he's standing in front of the poster. Like, it's not like he doesn't see it. He knows exactly what it is. He's either an idiot or I don't know how you become high ranking. Like, the president appointed him as the director of national intelligence. Like, he clearly knows what he's doing. And another thing that I do for people is I try to break Q down in the most simplistic form. So I recommend people go and watch some videos like from Praying Medic or Just Informed Talk or X22. And they have a couple good breakdowns on how Q works and how the boards work and why these little things matter, these timestamps. Because otherwise we'll literally be here forever and I'll be talking It's too much to cover and too detailed to really get into, and it's probably be pretty boring, honestly.
Well, that's why I asked you to kind of explain what it's about, because you're also starting to see more now on social media that they're trying first, and it was funny because there's actually a video of, CNN covering a couple years ago talking about the Q group inside the NSA and saying that's like their police force of it. So even if you don't believe that a Q group is real, like, and whatever, and you're a CIA or CNN like loyalist, they literally ran the report years before, admitting that there's a Q group.
100%, 100%. And like I said, like, people don't realize that the NSA is military intelligence. It's not like the CIA. It's military. And that's why people like Admiral Rogers was the head of the NSA. And Admiral Rogers was the one who literally went to Trump Tower and told President Trump that he was being spied on. And that's when they moved to Bedminster, New Jersey. How do you think Admiral Rogers knew this? Because he's in the NSA. And back to what I originally said, these people never thought that Hillary would lose. They always thought they'd be in control. And because of this, they were using all their cell phones. So the NSA, we all know now, based on what Edward Snowden did, who I think is a traitor and did this on purpose, because of this information coming out now. But the NSA didn't just track us. They didn't just keep all of our emails and text messages and phone conversations and every conversation that we've had on the internet. They didn't just do it to us. They did it to all of them as well. Everybody. So every time they went to Epstein Island, the NSA has it. The DNC servers, the NSA has it. They have all of it because they tracked everybody. It wasn't just us common folk, us peasants. It was everybody who was using the internet unsecurely. Like, if they were using government issued things, it'd probably be a different story, but they weren't. They were using their fucking Blackberries. Like, they thought they were,
because they were untouchable.
Yes, and not only did the text messages and the things like that have the things that they were talking about, like, for example, in the Podesta emails where Hillary Clinton's talking to John Podesta saying she's going to go in her backyard and sacrifice a chicken to Malak. Like, this is a real email. Like, yeah, wild. Like,
familiar with what Malak is? It's the god that they sacrifice children and of war.
The pagan god of child sacrifice. Like, Google it yourself. Google Malak.
Yeah.
Like, AOL had a Malak server. Verizon has a Malak conference. Like, they throw it in our face, and it's a big owl god. But that's a whole nother story. Like, if you wanted to go down that path, that's a whole nother story. And that all ties in because Q was always talking about Epstein, was always talking about things. Like, Q was talking about this woman by the name of Rachel Chandler, which still no one to this day knows who Rachel Chandler is. And it goes back to, again, they never thought they'd lose power. She had an Instagram, and she was public on Instagram, and she was like working with model agencies and things like that. And she posted some really wild things on her Instagram, one being a security feed that looked like there was people trapped in the basement, like huddled up. Like, it's very visible. It's not like it. You're looking at it, you're like, that. You almost want to be like, no way, that's real. Like, but it's very real, very real, because it's clear as day. So he was talking about her a long time ago. He was talking about Nexium before they got popped, talking about all these things that happened already have come true. And the media constantly harasses Q and says it's some crazy conspiracy, but they never talk about the substances of Q's posts. They never talk about Q's talking about it. They just talk about how they think it's an elite. There's an elite group of people that are pedophiles that are trying to run the world, that are eating children. And you can even hear in the one question that they asked President Trump about Q, they're like, yeah, we heard it's a satanic pedophile ring that's trying to take you down. And he's like, well, would that be a bad thing? Like, like a boss. Like, he's like, would that be a bad, like, I don't know much about it, but would that be a bad thing?
I think the way they said it was, it's a group thinking that, they're against satanic pedophile rings and they think you're like the savior of it. And he was like, well, is that a bad thing?
Yeah. So it's really wild to me that they're attacking Q that way, and they're going as far to removing dozens and dozens of accounts, massive accounts, not like tiny accounts, people with like 300,000 followers, some of them.
Yep.
Just wiping them off, just in the memory hole. They don't exist. Like you wake up the next day and your shit is gone. Like you can't even log into it. No rhyme, no email, no nothing. And they're wiping it. They've been doing it on Twitter for a long time at this point. There's people like Tommy G who can't even create accounts on Twitter anymore because they banned his IP address and crazy things. Even if he gets up, he's gone in 2 days. And they're doing the same thing now on Instagram as well. And what I always say to people, I'm like, okay, well, why are they trying to silence us if this is some crazy nonsense? Like this, if this is really some crazy nonsense, why not just let us be crazy lunatics? Because at the end of the day, if this is not real, we're crazy fucking lunatics. Like that's, we're out screaming and yelling that there's satanic pedophiles.
But then again, like going back, like satanic pedophiles, since Ghislaine Maxwell's been hit, like every couple of days, you're seeing them rescue 50. There was a big one, over 100 and something kids, or 900 kids. Did you see that the other day?
I did. They're rescuing kids left
and right.
It's all, but here's the thing, like
nobody talks about it though.
I've known about Epstein since 04, 05, and even after his first conviction in 08. You couldn't tell people that there was a guy like Jeffrey Epstein. Like I'd bring up like, hey, Jeffrey Epstein, he's a pedophile. He got convicted, and Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew are friends with him, and other celebrities go through his island all the time, and they'd still look at you like you're crazy. Like they look at you like you're nuts. Like this, there's no way this is real. Like you could show them documents. And now that he got arrested, let's also go through this. I kind of briefly went through it before, but since President Trump has gotten into office, look at how many elites, not just like regular small pedophiles and things that we're seeing now with the children being rescued, but elites that have been involved in human trafficking and pedophilia. Let's just go through. We have the easy ones are Epstein and Maxwell, which most people probably know at this point. Those are probably the only ones that most people know. Everything else from here on out, most people have never even heard of before, but these are all people that have gotten arrested and convicted since 2016 and President Trump took office. So then there was NXIVM. NXIVM was a cult where Keith Raniere was the leader, and they got convicted. He got convicted on all charges. People involved in NXIVM, and the charges were disgusting, like child slavery. They were locking people in closets and keeping them for 3 months, and crazy, disgusting things. Allison Mack from Smallville, convicted from that case. They all get sentenced September, October. So the sentences that are coming up for these people. Keith Raniere is probably going to get executed. Allison Mack, even though she took a plea deal, is facing a minimum of 40 years. Like this is how serious this was. Then the financiers of this operation, this NXIVM operation, like they hid under the guise of a network marketing company. They had an office in Albany, New York. Like they owned a dozen preschools in the United States alone, and even more all across the country. All across the world, I'm sorry. And the schools were disgusting. I'll get into that in a second. But the financiers of this operation were the Brafman family. The Brafmans happened to be the heirs to the Seagram's fortune. Claire and Sarah Brafman pleaded and were convicted to all of these crimes. Like it's crazy. Like they're involved. They used to host parties. Richard Branson used to host parties for NXIVM at his island, which happens to be a stone's throw in the Virgin Islands from Epstein Island. Like it's right down the road. Like it's a boat ride.
It's Virgin Records, right?
Richard Branson's the guy who owns Virgin Records and
Virgin Airlines.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah, British social
life.
He's
like a really cool dude. He seems like but he's involved. Like he had a NXIVM party. Like for all these sick fucks, the preschools, look at that. Listen how sick these preschools are. They had a dozen preschools, and some of them are still operating today, but they were unlicensed preschools. And these parents, I don't know how these parents allowed their children to do this, but the school believed that the school would keep the children for 13 hours a day. So pretty much all of the time that they were awake, especially little kids as young as 2 months old, they would take in. And their goal the goal of this school was to have children speaking 7 different languages by the time they're 2 years old. That was their goal. And every single day, they were taught they would have a different teacher, and they were taught a different language. So Monday it was English, Tuesday it was Spanish, Thursday, so on and so forth. if the parents did not speak the language of the day, the kids were not allowed to speak to the parents. So even though you were at the school for 13 hours a day, for the short period of time that you were at home with your family, if they didn't speak the language that you were learning, you weren't allowed to talk to your parents. Like, these are things that they were doing.
Not stealing them so they won't talk to their parents if they're getting touched, if they're getting,
Yes.
psychological.
Yes. So, yeah, they got that from Scientology, which is another whole rabbit hole, but they all convicted. So then on to the next one. We have John of God down in Brazil. For those who don't know who John of God is, Oprah Winfrey had him on his show and said to the world that he's her spiritual guide. Like, she was his spiritual guru. And there's many pictures. Like, he was on Oprah Winfrey's show. Like, it wasn't like there's just a bunch of pictures surfacing. Like, yeah, there's a ton of pictures, but it's more than just pictures. Like, he was literally on the show. And he got convicted in 2018 down in Brazil for human trafficking and child trafficking. Things that he was doing, he was literally keeping women chained up in closets, impregnating them on purpose, and then stealing the babies and sending them straight into the black market instantly. Born black market. Convicted for all of this. Okay, people like Robert De Niro, good friends with John of God. Like, many celebrities used him as their spiritual guide. Like, this is someone that was very close to all his people. Again, which ties right back to Epstein, which we all know is 100% fact as well. Then you have Peter Nygard. Peter Nygard was they call him the Canadian Epstein because he was a fashion mogul, billionaire. He had a huge warehouse in New York for his fashion, got raided and got caught with child pornography and trafficking children. What do you know? How many times again, you go even further back. Look at Jimmy Savile in England. Look at the Finders. The FBI released this in 2017 that the Finders was real. It used to be a conspiracy that they were using tunnels underneath school systems to traffic children, and these elites elite politicians were involved, and the FBI covered it up. Like, this is 100 that the FBI released this documentation. Like, these are all real. So these are things that are happening. So it's so funny that they say it's a conspiracy still. Like, how can anybody say that this is just some crazy nonsense? It's very, very real, and there's so much evidence.
When there's facts, there's documentation, and there's literally they're handing out sentences.
Yes, and they're going to jail, and people are dying. Like Epstein, another thing that is wild to me. Another thing that the media is not covering. Virginia Giuffre, she happens to be the woman, the young girl who's in that famous photo circulating around of Prince Andrew, that young blonde woman. She looks like she's like 14, 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And she's pictured next to Prince Andrew. And you can see Ghislaine Maxwell in the background, like leaning against the wall. And she's in a bunch of other pictures with a lot of other people. But she just had her testimony got released literally a couple weeks ago. Like, it was in August that her testimony got released, and she has eyewitness testimony, court documented, that Bill Clinton spotted on Epstein Island with two young girls. Eyewitness testimony. The media did not say one word about this. Now, again, Jeffrey Epstein is not a conspiracy. Jeffrey Epstein is 100% fact. There is no arguing it. Everybody knows that this guy was doing sick, disgusting things. And now you have the 42nd president of the United States with eyewitness testimony with him on the island, and the media doesn't say a word. There's no, imagine just for a second, hypothetically, imagine instead of it was Bill Clinton, it was Donald Trump that had eyewitness testimony on Epstein Island, which we now know is 100% fact. Pedophile island. What do you think the media would be doing? They'd be going nuts.
Losing their minds.
They'd be going nuts. It'd be 24/7, shoving it down your throats. Like, really think about it, how much the media attacks this man. And they go after him nonstop. Like, when they don't have news stories, they're like, oh, Donald Trump's unhealthy. He eats 2 scoops of ice cream and has Diet Coke with every meal. Like, that was a real news story on CNN. Like, this is what they do. And so when it comes back to Q, this is what I tell people. And I just take the things that I could prove without a shadow of a doubt, just to kind of prove that Q is real. Not just those proofs that I told you, but let's just take the Q posts out of it. Let's just talk about the people that are involved for a second. So let's start with President Trump. Okay, President Trump, he's not a shy person. He's very boisterous. He speaks his mind all the time. We can all agree on this, correct? If he thinks something's bullshit, he is the first person to say and call bullshit. Like whether it's a tweet, whether it's a question, whether it's in a press conference, he calls it out as he sees it every single time. Now, he goes to Trump rallies. Literally before COVID, it was like at one every other day all over the country. They're constantly happening. I happened to go to the one in Las Vegas in 2020, right before COVID happened. And there was Q signs, Q paraphernalia everywhere. Like you couldn't miss it. You literally had to be blind or completely oblivious to life to miss all of this Q stuff everywhere. It was so in your face. Old heads, young heads, I couldn't believe it. My buddy went to the Wilkes Barre rally in 2018. Same thing. He said Q stuff everywhere. He didn't even get in. He waited in line for 6 hours and didn't even get in 2018. Didn't even get into the rally. There was over 10,000 people outside the Vegas rally that didn't get in. Like this is crazy. But this stuff is everywhere. So President Trump, again, is not a stupid individual. Like he's very observant. He sees these things going on. Again, you'd have to be oblivious to life or blind to not see this. And he's at every single one. So he has to see this stuff. This is everywhere. He can't ignore it. And again,
even if you weren't familiar with it, you'd be like, what's all this Q shit everywhere?
Exactly. Like, and he would call it out if it was bullshit. Like he's like, all right, I don't know what this Q, like he would say it himself if it was nonsense. And then you have the fact that he tweets out hashtag QAnon and hashtag where we go one, we go all the time. Like he'll retweet things that are from big QAnon accounts all the time. And until recently, they didn't really ask, and they didn't even really ask him who is Q. They just asked him some crazy question about Q and how he felt, and he gave him a perfect answer. But until then, they didn't say anything about it. And I always use the example in the beginning of COVID. Remember when President Trump retweeted hashtag Fire Fauci?
Mm-hmm.
Media.
They went nuts about it.
And every single question was, did you know it said Fire Fauci? Are you going to fire Fauci? And they just couldn't stop talking about it. Yet the Rolling Stone put out an article like in 2019 that the president retweeted QAnon hashtags over 147 times or something like that. But yet they failed to ask who is Q? Is Q real? They never ask that. They always say, oh, what do you feel about Q? You know, what do you feel about this? And they've only asked it once. No follow-up questions, no nothing. So you have that, and you have President Trump, again, who's not shy, and it's everywhere. Then you have Dan Scavino, and he's retweeting this stuff. So he has to either be stupid and not paying attention to his tweets and what he's doing, which I have a hard time believing.
That he is stupid. That's what a lot of people say. He is stupid because of the way he speaks, the way he handles stuff, the way he does Twitter, everything else. But I always say, like, and this goes for, anybody. Somebody that successful and that wealthy is usually not unintelligent.
He's got a very high IQ. I do know that.
It's like 140 something or whatever.
I think it was 150. He's very high, dude.
Yeah,
very high IQ.
Yeah. Most of I think Obama's IQ is a little higher.
I don't know about that, but I do know
there's a couple of them, but he's like the top 10 of highest IQs of presidents of all time.
And his uncle is John G. Trump, who was an MIT professor and Tesla.
Tesla files.
Yeah, but again, Donald Trump. So back to what I was saying, Donald Trump is very he's very observant, and I don't think he's one to just recklessly tweet this out many times and have no idea what it is. Like if it was once or twice, I'd say okay, he probably just didn't see it. But in 2019, they put in an article. It was over like 100 plus times. Like how many times does it have to be until it's no longer a coincidence? Then you have Dan Scavino. For those who don't know, Dan Scavino is President Trump's personal White House secretary's assistant and also the White House social media manager. He's the guy who puts out all the social media for the White House. So Instagram, he's in charge of all of it. Okay, so to get that role, to get a job like that, you cannot be uh like making any kinds of mistakes. You have to be very articulate, very observant. You have to, make sure everything all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Because how many times do you post a picture like you see on the internet, and so like a girl in the mirror posting a selfie, and you can see in the background like all of her dildos and all these crazy things in the background, and she didn't even realize that she posted it.
Yeah.
And like, imagine the White House posts a picture of something that they're trying to do. Like, look at all the White House pictures of like Donald Trump doing something, and imagine it had something that shouldn't be in there. He can't be doing that. So he has to be very observant and meticulous in the work that he does, and detail oriented. You can't be a stupid individual. So again, he's at all these rallies as well, sees all of this Q stuff. Now you have Dan Scavino out there on Twitter, and he posts like random tweets sometimes on Twitter or on Instagram, where once it was like a random field in the middle of nowhere, and it just had one big white oil tanker, and that's all it was. It was a white oil tanker in a field, and in the middle of the oil tanker, a big bold Q. Just a big bold Q. Then the very next day, he posts another thing where it says, "We will prevail," written in chalk. And all of the I's in "We will prevail" were dotted with Q plus. And for those who don't know, Q plus on the boards is actually POTUS talking to us on the boards. It's actually President Trump, and that's who Q plus is. So again, it's not something that a social media manager and the White House secretary can be posting and just randomly and be like, I don't know what this is, on multiple occasions. And when people are saying that this is some crazy conspiracy theory, that they're satanic pedophiles, and it really is nonsense. Like, really think about that. Like, if he were to post that out there, it really was nonsense. Don't you think the media would just blow him up and be like, yo, why are you posting this crazy nonsense? They just completely ignore it for a reason. Yeah. They don't want to talk about it. Then you have Don Jr. Again, very loud, very boisterous. He follows, likes, and shares so much Q account stuff. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So and
even I think the first presidential, when he or on, what was it, the 4th of July or something, Eric Trump posted that one thing with the Q flag behind it.
No, he posted a big Q with a flag on it, and it said, "Where we go, one we go all." And you don't have these things happen on accident when these people are in these kinds of positions, based on what the media is putting out there into the world about QAnon. They're trying to paint us into this corner as some crazy lunatics. Like, that's what they're trying to say, that we're violent, crazy cultists. That's what they're trying to say. And if that's truly the case, then why are people like President Trump and Eric Trump and Dan Scavino and General Flynn all putting out this QAnon stuff? Like, General Flynn is in group chats with some people that are in the community. Like, he's in group chats with these people on Instagram, and they have conversations. Like, that is wild to me.
Yeah.
And you have so many things that are going on that really ties all this together. And the one thing that, again, ties it back to the pedophilia, because I think that's the most important thing that it's not just, Q's goals are really to restore justice, end the two-tier justice system. And restoring justice, ending the two-tier justice system, really encompass the evil crimes, the satanic pedophilia that these people have been involved in. Like when we said earlier, Hillary Clinton's emailing about sacrificing a chicken to Malak, that's literally like, chicken is code word for children, and Malak is the pagan god for child sacrifice. Like, I don't think ever in my life I've ever texted my friend like, "Hey, I'm gonna go in the backyard and sacrifice a chicken to Malak. I'm just gonna go do that." Okay, like, you send an email. Like, I've never thought that. Or like, if you listen to if you read through the rest of the emails, which CNN reported on, Chris Cuomo goes, "Yeah, don't read the Podesta emails. It's illegal. Us at the media have special access to this." Things that WikiLeaks, like, this is what they tried to say to us. And you read these emails, and they're talking all these code, cryptic. It's clearly code, because they're like, I'm really confused. Should I eat my pizza on top of my Domino's, or should I have them underneath my Domino's? What? Like, who says that? And when you find out what Domino's and pizza mean in pedo code based on the FBI documents, it's very disturbing. It's disgusting. Because who says things like that? Especially when you're talking about the most elite people in the world. Like, these people are talking, like, in those same emails, you have Barack Obama sending an email ordering $65,000 of hot dogs and pizzas to the White House, flown in from Chicago at 1 a.m. Now, first off, let's just, again, take this at face value. Like, let's just take this at face value. It's hot dogs.
What do you say? He's hungry. Maybe he was hungry.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Let's take this. That's what people would say. Now, let's really break this down and think logically. Okay, so we're now talking about the richest people in the world. Because if you're ordering that much hot dogs and pizza, you're clearly ordering for a party. You're clearly ordering for an event at the White House. Okay, so at the White House, there's not tens of thousands of people going to the White House. It's probably a couple hundred at most that are going, maybe 200-300 that you're going to fit into that White House for a gala or a party at most. Like, I think that's even pushing it. That many people, but let's just say 200-300 people. Okay, and you're buying $65,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza. When you're buying that many hot dogs and pizza, you're not buying it at retail cost. You're buying it at wholesale cost. So you're literally buying these things for pennies on the dollar. Okay, so now we're talking 65,000. So even if they were $1 a piece, it's 65,000 hot dogs and pizzas. Okay, well, they're probably way more than just 65,000 hot dogs and pizzas. 200-300 people are not eating 65,000 hot dogs and pizzas in one party. It makes no sense. Like, who is ordering and eating that much hot dogs and pizza?
Well, even if you did that, say 65,000 hot dogs, and there's 300 people, each person would have to fucking eat like 30 hot dogs.
That's what I'm saying. Like it makes absolutely no sense, because you're not packing thousands of people in the White House. Let's really think about this logically. And you're ordering this amount of pizza at 1 a.m. At 1 a.m, which is, again, if you're holding a gala and having an event, wouldn't you want to have the food there like the day before or like the morning of, rather than at 1 a.m. to show up? And again, these are the richest, most elite people in the world that would be going to an event at the White House. Now, I know President Trump served Big Macs and Happy Meals to the Clemson football team, but that was because the government was shut down and they wouldn't let him host a dinner for them. Mm-hmm. But besides that, you really think that the richest, most powerful people in the world are going to go to a gala and eat hot dogs and pizzas when they can eat at some of the best restaurants in the world, like have some of the best food paid for by taxpayer money, mind you, paid for by taxpayer money? That's $65,000 worth of hot dogs sent.
You think that they were fucking kids in the White House?
Well, that's the thing. Hillary Clinton, in the Podesta emails, had a follow-up email to Barack Obama saying, hey, I know you're the president, but we really shouldn't be making a spectacle of our parties. It's not a good idea. You're the president. You can do what you want, but it's not a good idea. And that was a follow-up email to that $65,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza email, because he was literally making a spectacle of it. And for those who don't know, any food that's ordered to the White House has to be made in the White House, because it's the president of the United States. God forbid someone wants to poison the president of the United States. It'd be very easy when you order out, when you get takeout. You're the president. You want them gone? Oh, CIA come in, or Russian. Plants a worker at his favorite.
We're gonna fly in, 65,000, footlongs from Wrigley's Field.
It makes no sense. Like, I even say, like, there's a place by me in Vegas called Dirt Dog. It's a awesome hot dog spot, and their dog, like, I get a chili dog with French fries and cheese on a lobster roll wrapped in bacon. It's unbelievable. That hot dog costs $7. Even if it was that hot dog at full cost, $65,000 worth of fucking hot dogs and pizza for a couple hundred people, it makes no sense. Like, logically thinking, it makes no sense. Then you find out that hot dogs mean little boys and pizzas mean little girls. You're like, oh, wait a second. Maybe it's $65,000 worth of hot dogs, little boys and little girls to the White House. Maybe. Why are you emailing about this stuff? Why is the media not covering? Why are they telling us not to look at these emails, saying that they have special privileges? So again, these are things that we know are out there that are real. These are conversations that were had. There's no disputing this. Now, knowing what we know now about all of these elite pedophiles that I listed prior, doesn't it make you think, hey, maybe we should look into this? Because they had connections to this guy, and they were friends with this guy, and they were hanging out with this guy, and they were doing this with this guy. Oh, maybe he was at the island. Oh, maybe we should look at the flight. Oh, he's on the flight logs. Oh, my goodness. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't be difficult to look at, but these are things, knowing what we know now, that I think are fair to raise a question. Am I wrong to?
So what do you say to like the people? Because I always see, I don't know if you've seen it, Drew. Anytime you bring up Epstein and everybody posts a picture of him and Donald Trump laughing at Mar-a-Lago, and they're like, "Oh, he's Trump's buddy. He's Trump's this. He's Trump's that. Oh, Trump's a pedophile." I think, me personally, with how much the media hates President Trump, they would have blew him up by now if they had something.
Absolutely. Now,
anything else that can't stick to him, Adam trying to get to stick.
I get that question all the time, because I can understand why people ask that question. But again, you have to look into things and look deeper. And like you just said, look at what they've been doing to President Trump since the very beginning. We talked about it earlier. They've been attacking him 24/7, nonstop. They don't just attack him. They attack his family. They attack his 15-year-old son, Barron. They don't pull punches. And they have tried to railroad this man since the very beginning. Like, really look at the timeline since President Trump has gotten into office. It was Peter Strzok saying that they have insurance policies in case President Trump gets elected. He gets elected. Oh, now it's Russia. Russia influenced the election. Russia. The Russian investigation ended. Robert Mueller testified, and they're like, yeah, we don't got anything, and tried to frame it in a way the best he could to make it seem like they did, but they couldn't show it. But they had nothing. Then that story didn't even get cold. Like, it was literally days later, Adam Schiff is out there, whistleblower, quid pro quo, and he read that bogus thing to Congress in a congressional hearing that he said that this is what the conversation was. So President Trump released the transcripts. He's like, no, it's not. Released the transcripts. Adam Schiff's like, oh, no, that was a parody. Literally days after the Russian investigation ended. And then as soon as that got blown up,
for the past 4 years, it's literally, and that's what I think, is troubling too for a lot of people is, if you're not on Trump's side and or the Republican side, whatever it is, Democrat, right? So the Democratic side looks at it and looks like, hey, this guy has been nothing but fucking problems. Is our country better because he's here? Look, this isn't Joe Biden's America. This is President Trump's America that they're burning everything down. This isn't, this isn't what Joe Biden did, even though he's been in for 50 years. But I'm just saying, like, you can see somebody else's point of view if they don't know all the context, and a lot of people on that side think that their superior intellect is, all this stuff is just silly nonsense. But you can see, like, there has been turmoil, there has been stuff, but this turmoil and the race baiting and all that stuff has been going on. Like, people forget about Ferguson and all that other shit that happened. Like Obama, our first black president, and Joe Biden, who's the hippest, coolest Desposito in town, right? But like, they've been together, and now he's gonna fix it when he can't even tie his shoes.
What he said the other day. I got
all the turmoil's going on, and people are gonna blame him.
Yep. No, you're 100% right, because they're headline researchers, and that's what the problem with the media is, and this is why Q exists, because the media doesn't cover this stuff. Because again, it's been back to that. As soon as they did the quid pro quo blew up, they was like, oh, we got another whistleblower, and you can't even say this guy's name or type it out on the internet. Like, I don't even want to say it on your show because it'll get sent to the memory hole. Like, literally, as soon as they have algorithms to pick up the name, and it's gone. The video is off the internet. Poof. But it went to that, and they pushed this, and then they used that for impeachment, and they went to impeachment, and literally they held that impeachment articles. Nancy Pelosi held them for 30-something days. The day they made that famous walk across the aisle to Senate to drop off the impeachment papers, That was the same day that the first COVID positive patient hit the United States in Seattle. The same day that they made that famous walk.
And everybody was saying, yep. And everybody was saying, like, you got your impeachment papers. Why? Oh, it was a rush to do the impeachment. And then all of a sudden, they sat on your desk for a month.
So then they attacked him with impeachment. Then they attacked him while the impeachment is going on. President Trump is shutting down borders while the impeachment is going down. On January 29th, he shut down the border to China while they're impeaching him. And they said it was too soon, attacked him. He's a xenophobe. Nancy Pelosi's out there saying we got to start parades in Chinatown, so on and so forth. Yeah, but the impeachment falls flat on his face.
Yep, just this past week, they reneged on all that stuff. And they're saying, oh, they didn't say that, and, it's his fault and all this other stuff. Like, you just see the hypocrisy that's going on, the back and forth. So, now, I know there's a ton of things, too, that people could say, well, Trump's on camera saying this, and those are his words, and he's saying that, oh, that's not what he meant, or he didn't say it. So what do you say to, something like that?
So a lot of times when they do things like that, they only take a clip of what he's saying, and they don't show the full context or the full conversation that he's having, and they always take things out of context. Like the famous one is the there's good guys on both sides in reference to Charlottesville, and they take that completely out of context because literally seconds prior to that, he's literally like, literally says I condemn the KKK, I condemn white supremacy. Like he literally says this.
But people don't see that part of the video because they've only seen the sound bites.
And then he's like, yeah, there was peaceful protesters there, and I think people showed up. Like he literally talks about that. People showed up and hijacked the peaceful protest. And he was talking about those people, not the people that they want people to think he was talking about. Because literally words before that was like, I condemn the KKK, I condemn white supremacy.
Yeah, no, those were his exact words out of his mouth.
You can't find that video on the internet.
Charlottesville before too, because I was like, he was like, I was uncomfortable that it's okay in America, right? That like people are walking around with fucking tiki torches through the streets.
The guy who organized that is voting for Biden, by the way. The guy who organized that is voting for Biden, by the way. Just to let you know. But for those people, you have to realize that that's what the media, the power of the media. I mean, Malcolm X says it best. The newspapers can make the innocent look guilty and the guilty look innocent. They have so much power. But back to with the Epstein connection, because I know I think that's a really important question to answer. The things that I say to people, I'm like, listen, they've been trying to railroad this man since the very beginning. If they had any sort of information, they would use it. If they had one photo of him on Epstein Island, especially now that Epstein's been arrested, he's no longer an asset for them. He's no longer someone that can help them or do anything for them. So if Epstein's gone, why not we just throw President Trump? Oh, President Trump's with Epstein, done. Get him out, move their guy in, bing, bang, boom. Okay. Also, in 2008, in his first arrest, Epstein, okay, and there's pictures of these people because, again, President Trump owned Mar-a-Lago. It was one of the most popular clubs in Southern Florida. They all live in the same neighborhoods. Like you're a billionaire, this is the best neighborhood to live in because this is the best houses, the best real estate, and they all live there. So you're going to be neighbors. You're going to get to know people. And again, President Trump's a businessman. So you have to rub elbows with these people to conduct business because they're all billionaires. They didn't become billionaires by accident. They're clearly doing something. So you have to rub elbows with them. Now, in 2008, when he got arrested, he got a very sweetheart deal. He actually pled down from child sex trafficking to soliciting child prostitutes. And it was a 2-year deal, and he was able to go out on work release the whole entire time. And the Clintons helped him get that. So the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, they filed their own lawsuit, and they hired a lawyer. And the lawyer went around to that same neighborhood where all these rich, wealthy celebrities and billionaires lived, because that's where they all live in the same neighborhood. And he tried to get them to help with his case. Like, hey, can you testify or give me any information on what Jeffrey Epstein was doing so I could use it in my case? Nobody wanted to give any information besides Donald Trump. The lawyer, there's a famous interview saying the only person that helped me or gave me any helpful information was Donald Trump. Now, if you don't know, and many people may not know this, and it's very wild to me because it's almost common knowledge at this point to me. Virginia Guthrie, in the same eyewitness testimony spotting Clinton on the island, she also testified that every single room in every single house and property that Epstein owned was rigged for audio and video. Every single room, his New Mexico ranch, his Paris apartment, his Manhattan townhome, his island, every single room was rigged for audio and video. So anybody that has been to that island or been to anything or even been around any of the disgusting things that they were doing, they're on audio and
recorded.
Even if you didn't partake, like even if you went there.
Yeah, they were like, oh, we're going upstairs, and you're just hanging out downstairs, and they're doing whatever upstairs, like you were on camera.
You're complicit, and they can use that against you. Now, isn't it funny how nobody else wanted to speak up besides Donald Trump? And if like really put yourself in their shoes. If you're extremely wealthy, famous, and you're in the public eye, like a lot of these people who are associated with Epstein are, and you neighbors with him, you've been to the parties, you've been to the island,
smoke,
yet you know that there's audio and video on you because they've probably used it to blackmail you to do other things, because that's what the Epstein operation was to blackmail these people. You know that you're on audio and video. So, I don't want to cross this guy, because all it would take is say, hey, you should shut up. Otherwise, I'm just going to release this documents and say that, it was really you were running the operation. And then the whole group, the whole club is going to get behind me and say, and point fingers and say, oh, it was this guy. They're the pedophile, and it's, you against me kind of thing. And the only reason President Trump felt comfortable talking is because they had no evidence. Because again, he got in no trouble for that, like no trouble whatsoever. So if he's got information and they don't want him to get in any more trouble, wouldn't it be very easy to say, hey, Don, remember that time you came to the island? You might not want to talk to that lawyer. It'd be very easy, because if it was me and I was in that situation, really put yourself in that shoes. As hard as it is to do, you definitely would play ball. Like, you know what? They got some. That's crazy. I don't want that getting out there. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to say a word. And again, don't you think they would put it out there if they had it at this point, based on what they've been trying to do? And again, it's a big club. People don't realize that this is a big club. And the best example I could give people that President Trump is not a part of this big club, it's very easy to tell for two examples. One, President Trump's big football fan. He has tried on 2 occasions to buy an NFL team. On 2 occasions. Once in the 80s, they wouldn't let him, so he created his own football league, the USFL. Mm-hmm. And that's where he met Herschel Walker. And Herschel Walker had a very powerful statement in the RNC. And he's like, I've known this man for 37 years, and I take it personally that you say he's racist. You're literally calling me an idiot to my face, because I've known this man for 37 years. Like, it was a very powerful statement. But Herschel Walker was Donald Trump's first draft pick for the New Jersey Generals. And he started that league, but they wouldn't let him in the NFL. And the NFL, the ownership, we know
itself, the NFL.
Exactly. We know it's a boys' club. And for those who don't, if you go really far down the rabbit hole, Walter Camp, who created the NFL, was a bonesman, which is wild. A skull and bonesman. But they wouldn't let him in the NFL then. And then in 98, when Leon Hess died, Trump wanted to buy the Jets. And I wish that, because I'm a Jets fan, man, I would have loved DJT as the owner of the Jets. We'd have a Super Bowl or 2 at this point. We'd be champions, because the Johnsons are garbage. They're a pile of hot trash. But I'm not even watching sports this year. I'm done with it. But wow. UFC, I'm done with it. But regardless, he wanted to buy the Jets. Again, the NFL denied him. They would not let him be a part of this club. They would not let him own a team. Second example, right where I live right now, sunny Las Vegas. Donald Trump.
Well, let him put a casino.
Wanted a casino.
Well,
he wanted that gaming license. The gaming commission said, no, we're not giving you a casino license. So he built a resort, went to Atlantic City, opened up casinos in Atlantic City, because they wouldn't let him in Vegas. Because again, it's a giant club. Only certain people they let in. They only let those who play along. And it goes back to, like, even look what's going on right now, the way this club works. Very small example. I'm not sure if you're aware of the bill that Tim Scott from South Carolina got passed with President Trump about opportunity zones. So President Trump and Tim Scott. Okay, so Tim Scott brought this bill, and President Trump backed it, and signed it when it hit his office. Is all about opportunity zones, which is essentially lowering taxes and cutting regulations and making loans and getting access to money a lot easier in lower income areas where it's tough to start a business for people who, people who are down on their luck and they can't get it's tough to get a loan. Like if you don't have the right credit or things like that. So they're making it easy for low income areas to get loans and be able to start their own business loans and things like they call them opportunity zones. So President Trump had a roundtable with a bunch of leaders in the Black community, and one of the people were from Baltimore, and she was saying, she's like, listen, I love the opportunity zones, but the problem is the money is not getting to where it needs to go. She's like, the people that are going to ask for the money, the people that have control of the money are the local governments, which happen to be Democrat run, and they're not giving the money to people that don't want to vote or play along with their agenda. So if you don't play along, you're not getting the money. They're not giving it to you. So they're only giving it to a select
to the people to build them more money.
And they're funneling it their friends and family and things like that. And it's very unfortunate.
So they can put the six door condo or the 30 foot or 30, unit apartment buildings up, and they can be the slumlords there.
Exactly. So you have Ben Carson there, and he was saying that they're actively working to fix that because they realize that's an issue, and they're glad they brought that up. But that's a perfect example. Is they only allow certain people to have access to certain things because if you're not going to play along and play ball,
federally pass something, but then once it goes to the state or the local, whoever's in control in that area, they can put stuff on the slide and divvy it out however they want. Because that's what they do for years, and that's what they're doing now in Jersey with coronavirus is trying to get the money from the federal, so then the state can do whatever they want with it.
Well, that kind of goes into what's going on right now and why we're seeing the fires out west. That is something that's so wild to me. Have you guys been keeping up with that at all?
Yeah, well,
they've seen all the videos and all that, dude. It's great.
It's the whole strip.
Like the fire stopped at the Canadian border, and there's like literally leaked video all the time of people starting fires, and they're trying to say it's climate change, which, I guess if you want to, think down that, the climate does change on the earth. It has for thousands of years.
For thousands of years, yes, absolutely.
Millions of years.
So these fires are devastating, and it's very unfortunate, and it's sad because people are losing their homes, their memories, their, I'm sure, photos, and when things like that happen, it's not
it's like hell on earth right now. It's literally like hell on earth. It's on fire.
It's everywhere. Like the whole strip is covered in smoke by me. Like it's covered in smoke. It's crazy.
From the California fires?
Yeah, well, it's not just California at this point. It's all over the West Coast. Like if you look at the map, it's like all around Vegas.
Yeah, it goes up to around Vegas too.
Yeah, because there's a desert out here.
Yeah.
But there's smoke everywhere. But it's all northern California. So what's really crazy is that these fires have been happening, and talking about funneling money, this is why these fires are happening. Because remember, President Trump signed a bill saying that we're not going to fund states or cities that claim sanctuary status. We're not going to give any federal funds. We will stop funding them. Well, so if you're not receiving any funds, how do you receive federal funds? You declare a state of emergency. How do you declare a state of emergency? You start fires. So now, Q the past couple of days has been posting up a storm, and literally probably 50 to 60 articles of people getting arrested for arson in these areas. Literally for arson. So there was this one spot in Oregon that he posted. It was a town hall meeting, and they're doing it on Zoom because of COVID. And they're talking about putting in a curfew, a 10 p.m. curfew. Yeah. So the guy from the town who represents the sheriff's office comes on. He's like, listen, I recommend a 10 p.m. curfew because we have confirmed reports that there's hate groups. We can't confirm 100%, but most likely it's Antifa staging gas canisters all throughout the town and setting them on fire. And there's also people walking around town with chainsaws, and they're cutting down telephone poles in hopes to start fires. This is literally happening. and like real town hall meetings. Like I could send you the video right now so you can see for yourself. Like it is wild. I have police scanners of people, Texas plates driving away. They threw Molotov cocktail out the window, and you have pictures of fireworks being set off in the woods. Like who sets off fireworks in the woods, like in a heavily wooded area, unless you're trying to start a fire? You don't do that. And then you have literally, there was one post alone that was just an archive of probably 30, 40 people that were arrested for arson, for starting
everything. Yeah.
There was one woman who caught a guy walking out of her property with nothing but matches. She's pulling into her driveway, and this guy is walking in her property. She gets out of her car, and luckily she exercises her Second Amendment right, immediately put a pistol on her, and literally is like walking this guy off of her property. And as soon as they get to the street, she makes him lay down and just keeps the gun on him until the cops get there. And he only had matches. He's like, yeah, I was smoking a cigarette. She's like, well, where's your cigarettes? He's by himself. Like, why are you on my property in the woods smoking a cigarette? Yeah, like, why not just smoking in the street? Like, why do you just have matches? There's another video that I posted. It's so painfully obvious. There is a guy walking on the street in a hoodie. He stops, goes under a bush with a lighter, and he physically lights the bush on fire. Like, there's video of this. And it's happening over and over again. And this is why the entire country is ablaze. Now you have Gavin Newsom on there, and he's like, oh, this is what climate change is. This is why we have to vote Joe Biden, because our president doesn't believe in climate change, so on and so forth. Meanwhile, there's been dozens, if not close to 100 arrests for arson. So your story doesn't make sense there, Mr. Newsom. And it's really unfortunate because it's at the cost of how many Americans at this point? How many people are losing?
That's the thing. They're doing stuff to everybody between the pandemic and everything else that are they're just playing with our lives. And people don't, and people think it's for the betterment. Like I don't get it either. But we covered a lot of shit today.
Yeah.
A lot of shit. So Drew, do you have anything? You got any questions or anything that?
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely
it's
a lot. I love having you on, man, because you kind of spat out a lot in a short amount of time, man.
Well, I mean, the good thing I think too about James is like when he comes on, it's also like his timelines, and you can fact check him, and you can go through this.
I want you to.
Because he wants you to, and we want you to. Like, don't take his word for face value. We're just trying to give you guys a little bit of a view. Like. I know a little bit more about this. Drew doesn't know about as much as Drew might not even be on the same page as us. So, which is fine.
Absolutely.
But we all need to hear all sides.
Yeah.
100%.
Listen to everybody,
and then you can make the educated decision for yourself.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong, because when I was growing up as a kid, politics was a very taboo subject. You were not supposed to talk about politics with people. How it always was in my family. I truly believe that's why we're in the situation that we're in now. We're friends of 30 years, and family members are cutting each other off because of political views, which is disgusting. Like it's terrible to see. And I think that's why, because people aren't having civil discourse. People aren't having discussions about these topics that are so painfully obvious at this point that are going on. They just take the media's word for it.
Yeah, it's it's sad, but I mean, I think it's years and years of, everybody keeps saying, why these guys keep getting away with this? Something's got to change. How many times have you heard that for years? Like with politicians, like, oh, well, especially living in Jersey, it's like, oh, they made another tax. And they're like, dude, what else are they going to tax?
Yeah.
Like, something's got to change. Why is this guy not getting in trouble? Why is that? Like, I know myself personally for years, we keep saying, well, something's got to give. Yeah. Something's got to give.
People
and now
it's taxed at like 80%.
It's ridiculous. They taxed us on they figured out a way to tax us on water that falls out of the sky, aka rain, and if it runs off your property a certain way, you're responsible for a tax.
It's unbelievable. Like they just raised you 15%, 15 cents on the tolls. They just raised you 15 cents on the tolls.
Oh, I'm aware. That Easy Pass got me the other day. But hey, thank you so much for coming in. You're always a wealth of knowledge. We appreciate you, and hopefully we'll see you soon. And then real quick, James, if you can see James at home, he's rocking the Roll Junkie. So
Beautiful
go
Roll Junkie shirt.
Yeah, check out our sponsor, Roll Junkie. He actually has the Patriot T-shirt on. It's got the monkey with the American flag on the back. And they're dropping a new gi. I saw the blue and orange one.
They are. So
fire as hell.
2
Like
life
Goku?
code, 15% off. Check them out, guys.
All right. So hey, James, brother, we appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you having me, guys. Thanks again. Let's definitely do it again soon.
Thank you.
There.
Did you hit stop?
I'm trying, but it won't stop. Maybe I got to click up top.
No, you hit stop recording on the bottom. I can hit stop recording right now.
Do it.